I'm Michele Granberg. Welcome to Positive Energy. This furry fellow is Loki. He's helping me introduce our topic, the spiritual nature of animals. If you love animals and sense there's something precious and sacred about all animals, you're right. Animals are spiritual beings just like you and me. My guest, Dr. Linda Bender, is a doctor of veterinary medicine, author of Animal Wisdom, and an animal advocate. Loki is excited about this show, so stay with us. So Linda, welcome to Positive Energy.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's nice to have you here, and I'm excited to talk about animals because animals are pure positive energy and they bring out the same in us.
Yes.
So I read your book, Animal Wisdom, The Spiritual Life of Animals. And I absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
So much of it, it's so rich with inspiration and information.
Thank you.
So we can really talk a lot about what's contained in the book. And just like you, I love animals since I was a little girl as well.
Yes.
Same feelings. Just that near and dear feeling. And probably just like you, I feel their hurt and their pain. That's the other side of the coin.
Very much so. A blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's disturbing sometimes when you think about their hurt and their pain.
Yeah, but that blessing and a curse and that feeling of the pain actually evolves into our greatest strength, which is a very important point that I do discuss in the book.
Yes. We'll start with saying, most people love animals, but we do underestimate the power of animals and the power of that relationship. And you talk about animals really as a source of happiness, as a source of pure happiness. So say a little bit more about that, how we all universally experience animals in that very pure, innocent, positive way.
Yes, and I like the word pure because animals live in the purity of what is in nature, closer to source than we as humans are doing now, particularly in our Western culture. Tremendous difference from how many of the indigenous cultures lived, and a few still are. But yes, animals live in that oneness, in that closeness.
They can't live in any other state because they're just
they're
not wired as we are. So how do you say that they don't have an ego or personality the same way we do? How do you? What way do you describe it?
Yeah, they have many of our similarities, but I think we must be very, very careful not to anthropomorphize animals and say, well, they're exactly like us. We share many, many, many things, emotions being one, which we may talk about. But they are their own beings. Every species is an expression of source. Call it what you will, source, the oneness, God, whatever.
Soul, energy.
Soul.
In unique forms.
Yes, and the word animal, the root word for animal is anima, which means soul.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Right there, showing you how close they are.
Right there.
They really are their soul in a physical form. They are more their living soul than we are. In some ways.
Well, I think they are comfortable in that beingness than we are. We are all soul. We're all spiritual beings, as we say, having this earthly experience. And we tend to live, out in this outer world that we've created, more so than, of course, the animals do.
Well, that leads right into saying that animals, of course, they're souls and they have a purpose, just as we do, and they have a spiritual life, all their own. And we don't tend to think of animals in that way, but they've chosen to be here, just as we've chosen to be here, and they have free will, and they are learning and teaching as we are. So say more about that, what that means to you, because that is what inspired you to write this book about what that means, the spiritual life of animals.
Yes. Well, animals taught me as a very young girl out in nature, and I was invited into their world. I paid attention, as children do, more readily. And they expressed that joy, that oneness in Source, and I was invited into that, almost like an interspecies adoption, you know. Oh, look at that poor little one. You know, let's
I love the idea. They adopted you.
Yes,
Not
they
that you adopted them.
Totally. And, you know, what part of that joy of being alive, there are a lot of Linda-isms in the book, and one of them is that animals have a joy of aliveness. I mean, it's nature. Things good happen, things bad happens.
Right.
But there is a joy of aliveness that animals live in. And they shared that with me as a child. And the other thing that refers to your point earlier, that they are not here just for us. They have lives of meaning and purpose aside from the meaning and purpose that we as humans assign them. And that's what we often forget.
We're locked into very limiting ideas of what purpose means as humans. Purpose means have a family, make money, get a job. But it's so much broader than that. I mean, we're here to be part of the whole and to help and to support and to help each other grow.
And that's, again, they're experiencing that joy of aliveness and meaning and purpose outside of anything that we have created, which is that material world. We're all consumers. And we have been deluded to believe that happiness, that joy, comes from things outside of us, things that we purchase, that we buy, you know, money, goods. And that's, you know, it's a recipe for disaster. It doesn't work, or it works very temporarily, and then we're unhappy again, and then we go out and buy more things, and we're briefly happy and joyous. It's a vicious cycle. And it goes on, and then animals aren't going through that. So they're representing the present that says, hey.
They're modeling that.
They are modeling
for
that.
us.
If we pay attention.
If we pay attention, because it's subtle.
And particularly our dogs and cats, but also out in nature. You know, I say on the Monday morning when we're charging off to work and we've got our to-do list in front of us and we're focused on that, and suddenly we hear up in a tree the wonderful melodious song of a bird. We're distracted for just a moment from our material world to-do list into the present moment.
So animals are always in the present moment. And they are connected. They're living in that connection to Source. They're living as that expression. And when we see that, we start to awaken and remember that, hopefully. Longer and longer periods of time we will do that. So how did we go from, we are also connected, but we've forgotten that we're connected. So are they reflecting that disconnection to us, or, and how do we come to regard them as lesser beings? Because there is that humans are up here paradigm that we live in, and animals are down here. So I know you want to bring us on that equal.
That, again, is a total delusion, because there is no greater, lesser, better, not good.
Source.
I mean, it's all, we're different but equal. All lives, again, have meaning and purpose. All lives are soul. How could one soul be more meaningful or more important than another? We're talking about diversity, but there's unity and beauty in diversity, which is what nature teaches us. But we have, well, there are two basic reasons that we have separated ourselves, and one is that materialist science view that is now fading. It's still there and very, very loud, but it's really falling. It's beginning to fall by the wayside.
There's some big shifts that are happening.
Big shifts
in our
that
consciousness and in our world.
Yeah, but what that very dogmatic materialist scientist view is, and it's been the paradigm for quite some time, is that basically all matter is dead. The universe is all composed of dead matter, and for some obscure reason that we have no explanation for, human beings are conscious. We don't even know what consciousness is, what it comes for. It's the, quote, hard question in science. So
science can't get a handle on that.
No,
because it's outside of what science can measure.
Right, and we're still in it. So we're still in that soup. So how can we actually get out far enough to determine it? But what that has evolved to mean is that so we are the humans, we are the beings on the top,
right.
and so everything else is dead and not important. So we are the we're here to use.
Right.
And the second reason is, which goes hand in hand with that, although they actually fight, is the religious paradigm that says we are able to claim dominion over animals and nature, that we are the ones at the top of the totem pole, and everything else that exists is only here for us to use and abuse. So we have distorted
it's an illusion, yeah.
We've distorted the reality of nature because nature it cannot be separate. There is no such thing.
It's just a projection of our distortion.
Exactly.
You know, that misperception that we live in.
Right, right. That we are somehow separate and elevated.
Right.
We cannot
the separation illusion.
be separated.
No, nothing is separate.
Right.
So let's talk about, it's interesting to shift our perspective to what are animals thinking and what are they feeling and what are they experiencing as source and what do they see and what do they think of us. Let's start with emotions.
Sure.
You know, I know most people believe that animals experience love, the basic emotion, but humans have a tremendous range of experience, emotional range, very complex emotions. I know I go up and down on a hour-to-hour basis in my emotions. What's the range of emotion for animals, and what invokes emotions in animals, if it does, and how do they express emotion?
Right. Well, let's start with our dogs and cats. Now, they have the same neurohormones, the same neurotransmitters that we have. So why would anyone think they don't have the same emotions? And look on YouTube, you see evidence of compassion that domestic animals, untamed animals, it's out there because they're showing not only compassion for their own, but interspecies
now
compassion.
Yes.
And so across the board,
how can you look at that
you
and not
see compassion, empathy, love, caring. You see anger. You see the same Rolodex of emotions.
Fear.
Now they have their own cultures, so they're not, again, exactly like we are, but they have their own cultures and their own ways of dealing with life. But it works for them. It may not be exactly the same as us. But what motivates it? Often the same things that motivates it in us.
Stimuli and environment and stress and
anger, jealousy,
and family dynamics, and outsider dynamics,
turf issues,
territory issues. So it's
and
it's a microcosm of
of
what's going on in the macrocosm in our world, and they're experiencing similar.
Yes. And most of them have been around a lot longer than we have, so they have it down pretty well, and we have much to learn in how they.
We have much to learn about their emotions, about
how they work among themselves, among each other, how they live in more harmony.
And then the work would be to translate that to humans so that humans can learn from that.
Sure. We have much to learn from humans, and though we're not sharing the same language, when we pay attention, they offer us much to learn. Yes.
So just observing animals is powerful and healing, and their energy is healing to be around. I know they have a calming effect. They certainly do on me. But say a little bit more about that, because I know there's a lot of interesting research around literally the healing effects, the health benefits, and the calming and the positive emotions
there's
that we derive.
So much now on the internet. There's so much evidence that animals are helping humans. I remember I started one of the first pet therapy programs. I on the board of the Mental Health Association, and I thought, well, that would be a fun thing to do. And I took a dog and a cat and a rabbit, went with a friend down to a residential facility for people who had emotional issues and needed help. And I was astounded by how they would ignore us, but the moment they saw
go to them.
The cat, for instance, it was like you turned on a switch and the light bulb came on, and people would light up that I'd never seen light up before. They would really back a story when life was less difficult, and it just brought them to life and remembered love, compassion. Right. And not only that, but you see, for example, the purr of a cat has been shown to be the #1 way to raise the immune system. Just have that purring cat right here. Immune system is boosted.
The mechanics of that?
We don't really know. We don't really know.
We don't know what's happening because a lot of that is invisible. It's unconscious. It's energetic.
Sure. I believe that there's this field, this resonant field around all of us, and that we are connected in that field. And particularly when there's an emotional bond, that is what really makes us irresistible on an intuitive,
it's like a magnet, it's a pull.
A healing level. Yes, it's an intense connection that works intuitively and healing. Yeah.
And I think internally we want to return to wholeness. We want to gravitate towards what's positive. So
totally. I mean, we're wired that way. Our relationship with animals goes back as far as human history.
Right.
I believe that that's essential to who we are as human beings, to have relationships with species other than human.
Just relating to our own species.
Sure.
I know a lot of people, my husband always says that he likes animals better than he likes
I hear
people.
that.
You probably hear that a lot.
I hear that a lot, as a matter of fact. I heard, it was said to me once that, if you want to do the work you need to do, Linda, you really need to love the humans more. And that was a conversation I had with a Sangoma in South Africa. And I was shocked and appalled because I thought I had a good relationship. But I had to go back and reassess and say, now, wait a minute. I do have work to do on loving the humans because we trust animals. We don't necessarily unconditionally trust all
We know
the
animals
humans.
don't have an agenda. They just are joy, right?
Well, they sometimes have an agenda, but usually we know what it is. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the predator-prey relationship that you talk about in the book, and people always have questions about that. And maybe if we're saying that animals are mirrors for us, it's playing out a drama in front of our eyes, would we say that is a spiritual lesson for us to see ourselves reflected back in those animals, or is there more to it than that on their end? So what's the soul level explanation for the predator-prey relationship? What do animals say about that?
Well, if I knew why there was a prey-predator relationship that existed, I would know all. I wouldn't be sitting here. None of us knows why prey-predator exists.
And it may be just a case-by-case,
but it does
in the moment.
Right. And again, humans tend to take ourselves outside of that, but we're not. We are also
we prey on
we are
other
totally
humans.
Prey animals, and we are actually. People say, "Oh, animals in the wild, it's cruel," and perhaps that's one way of looking at it. But the predator that, in my experience, is the cruelest of all is the human. What we do to our predator animals is,
and we're supposed to know better.
Is shocking, and it's gotten far worse. Now there are 19 states who have what's called AGAG laws, which means if you go in and try to expose cruelty in a facility, you will be arrested. You will be arrested. So what are we hiding?
Right.
What are we doing? That's insane. So animals in the wild, and I've seen many. I spent many years living in Africa and Asia, and I've been in the trenches, worked for many years in the trenches, and I've observed prey-predator. And it may seem cruel
on the surface,
but it actually is not taking, it is giving and receiving. And the higher understanding of prey-predator is that we all give and we all receive. At some point or other, all beings are predator. You know, all animals are prey.
Experience
and
both sides of that.
Experience, and when we die, what happens to us?
Yeah.
We become, like it or not, we become food for other.
So we see cycles in everything we look at.
It is.
And even in that, that's a cycle.
It's a cycle
it's nature.
Of living and death, and there cannot be life without death. And that's another issue, and I have a whole chapter on death in the book. But we in this contemporary Western society, we hide death. We push it under the rug. We do everything we can to not think about it, talk about it, deal with it.
Right.
But it's very much a part of life.
And what animals, so say something more about how animals experience death and how they relate to it, because in the book you say it is much different. They don't have the attachments that they still have fear on their way to death, but they also already have an understanding that sometimes it's going to happen. So
well, they're more comfortable with it because again we have divorced ourselves from that connection to nature and source. They are not disconnected from it. So although let's face it, none of us really knows what's going to happen when we die, and we all want to live. Animals aren't ready to just, okay, I'm dying today, roll over and go belly up. No, they all want to live. You know, we all want to live and thrive. But they have a trust. They trust life. They trust source. And if life and death are part of source and what is, then why not trust what happens in death? If you trust life, you can trust death, because when you're not as afraid to die, you're not as afraid to live. And it's very empowering when we as humans learn that lesson a bit more and practice dying on some level. We're dying all the time, you know.
So it's another one of those times when we're projecting our fears onto the animals. In that way.
Yes.
Yeah, so what do you say when someone is grieving over their pet? Do you have some particular words or ideas that comfort them, knowing what you know or what you believe?
Sure. Well, I've had more animals than I want to think about.
If you love animals and own them, you're gonna lose them eventually.
Yes. And as a veterinarian, you know, no one wants our animals to live more than we, and we promote life. You know, we're not saying, okay, well, we're all going to not worry about dying. We all want our animals to stay with us as long as possible. But often, because animals have shorter lifespans, they are often our first experience with death. And so people become just overwhelmed, and the losses are huge, huge. And that's okay. But one thing I always say to people is, don't be so aggrieved that your animal lingers to stay with you. You know, be part of the process. Allow the animal toward the end of their life to move on, because they love us so much. Our dogs and cats,
just as they do in life. So you've had the experience that they do stay around the person.
Well, in many cases, when we're begging them to stay, they will stay on.
Oh, before they die.
Before they die, sure.
Okay.
And to be part of the process, that when our animals are getting ready to die, or when they need help, and euthanasia is recommended, or the last resort, but often happens, be there with them. You know.
So that's what we can do for them.
Yes.
Hold the space, love them, and be present.
Be present
with your own emotions, and be present with whatever it is that is occurring.
Because I find that people regret when they don't, in retrospect. I find a lot of people say, I wish I had...
In those final hours.
I wish I had been with my animal. I hear that a lot. I wish I had done it. and you can't go back.
Yeah.
But it's a valuable lesson.
As painful as it is for us,
it's
thinking about the animal and I guess the broader.
Right.
I was with my animals. You probably have been when they do pass, and it's
Yes.
painful as it is, and you cry your heart out.
Yes.
It was a very powerful experience, and I really felt I could feel the animal's spirit lift out of the body and be more in that non-local form, in that spirit form, and I'll never forget that feeling. It's such a big feeling.
And teaching us to be less fearful. And several stories in the book about that, and seeing the soul, the face of God on an animal in life, and also very strongly as they're passing. Yes, it's a beautiful experience.
You call them the bodhisattvas, right?
Bodhisattvas often, yeah.
We have to. They are the gurus. We honor. They are the spiritual.
Our dogs, the bodhisattvas.
They're furry Dalai Lamas.
Yeah. With much to teach, if we're willing to pay attention. Yeah.
So we're sort of nearing our end, but we'll say how people can reach you. And anything else you'd like to share about what you're up to? And once again, the book is Animal Wisdom, The Spiritual Life of Animals by Dr. Linda Bender.
Yes, thank you. Well, probably my website is the best way to get a hold of me, and that's lindabender.org. And the mischief I'm getting up to is on there, and my Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff is all there. You can link to the book on there, and there's information about 2 other things I'm doing. One is my nonprofit, From the Heart, and also stories, people's stories, unexplained powers of animal stories. I ask people to send in. I have a database that I'm collecting the most amazing stories of people.
I bet they are.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on, and
So again, Linda's website is lindabender.org, and I do encourage you to go to her website and read about some of the things that she is talking about. And I would love to hear from you. What did you think about today's show? What did it spark in you? I hope it made an impact. Would love to know how you feel about your relationship to animals and them as spiritual beings. My website is michelegranberg.com. You can reach me by email at positiveenergytvshow@gmail.com as well. So is there a final message you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Absolutely. Everyone, do something to help animals. They need our help now more than ever. And work from the voice of your heart. That is the most powerful voice, and give a voice for the voiceless. Thank you.
So whatever little you can do, being in your heart. So you're going to stay with us because we're going to do another part 2 to this show and talk a little further about...
We'll talk more about that.
About animal intuition, animal communication.
Right. And what people can do out in the world. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Remember to breathe on Positive Energy.